my first time here in Brazil. We had this incredible meal last night. The energy here is awesome. People standing in the back. Thank you so much for being here with us today to work on this journey together. You're here because everybody wants to be a data and AI company. You know that it'll either set you apart or leave you behind in the next 2 to 5 to 10 years. But it's really hard to achieve, and we're here today to figure out how to do that together. So Databricks' mission since the founding over 10 years ago was to democratize data and AI. At that point, the Databricks founders were just researchers in the AMP lab at Berkeley in California. And what they saw was that all of the big successful technology companies, the Facebooks, the Googles, the Twitters at the time, LinkedIn, Netflix, they had hired thousands of engineers to build systems to harvest their data and run their company. Thousands of engineers inventing data and AI together. But all of you didn't have access to that technology. So in the founding of Databricks, the idea was to let anyone look at limitless data and do AI on top of it. And that was the origin of Apache Spark, which was written one night by Matei, a Databricks founder, in the Berkeley lab. Interesting to try to win the Netflix challenge, but that's a story for another time. So we've been working on this for a very long time. And every customer we talk to is trying to do this. And there's like 3 things that we hear again and again. Everybody wants AI, particularly generative AI. As soon as ChatGPT became a household term, people realized how this could impact their businesses. Security and privacy on these systems of data and AI are under pressure, under attack. There's so much going on there that makes companies nervous. And they have to figure out how to achieve security and privacy across their entire data estate. But their data estate is incredibly fragmented. So, how many people here are at companies that have been around for more than 10 years? Raise your hand. Come on, some hands. All right. Sometimes, companies have been around for much longer than that. And even if you've only been around for 5 years, you've acquired a lot of different things. And they're fragmented, which makes security hard and prevents people from getting to the data and AI goal. So we're going to break these down. Let's double-click into this. Everybody wants AI. So what does that mean? It's really talking about generative AI. There we go. And how do you know if generative AI is working? Well, there's these benchmarks out there. This is the MMLU, massively multitasking language understanding. What does that mean? Well, they take these models and they try to have it solve a lot of general problems. And they score the accuracy of those relative to basically what a human could do. And 100 is perfect. So the reason we didn't hear about LLMs 3 years ago is they were kind of crap, right? 40% score? That's not going to get anyone excited. But then, as soon as ChatGPT came out, or PaLM 540B before that, they started getting very, very compelling. And an industry emerged where a lot of these models started coming out. So these are the proprietary models, but there's also a lot of open source models. So these open source models are converging in quality with the private models. In fact, you see this chart isn't finished, right? Since this chart was made, new models Llama 3.1 405B is bananas. It's like right on top of the private model line. We ourselves, Databricks, the Mosaic team that we acquired 2 years ago, released DBRX. When we released DBRX, since of the efficiencies in our platform, we trained it for 1/10 the cost of what comparable models cost to train. Companies like OpenAI, they can spend $100 million training a model because they have infinite VC money, basically. But you can't spend $100 million training a model. You'll probably be training some models for thousands of dollars, hundreds of dollars, tens of dollars in these compound AI systems we'll talk about in a minute. But anyway, when we released DBRX, we wanted to show that you could use this platform to create an industry-leading model. And when we released it, it was the best open source model in the world for 2 weeks. But then Mark Zuckerberg, released Llama 3. But the point is, we don't care which model you use. You will use many models. Large language models, small language models, other kinds of models. We just want you to have the platform to achieve your goals with these models. So now, you say, okay, this MMLU, these models are great, almost 100% accurate, 80-90. They're ready for my business. But your business is very different than the tests these run. So when we talk about DBRX on these benchmarks, the question we always hear is, or the statement we always hear is, I don't really care about these benchmarks. Because I need these models, this AI, to work on my data. And none of those models work on your data. So I need to figure out how I can get the quality in those models on my data. That's what we hear from every company we talk to. And of all these people, every company is running some experiments with large language models, some little support chatbots and things like that. But when we surveyed our customers, 85% hadn't gotten that experiment into production. And getting data and AI with your data into production is hard. So you do a lot of these experiments, but before you put it into production, you need to do so many things. You need to make sure the quality is high and it won't hallucinate once it's in production. That can create real compliance issues, privacy issues, money issues, if you tell the customer the wrong thing through one of these tools. Cost. It costs a lot of money to train a model sometimes. We'll show you how to do it much easier. But then to run that model for all time in production, the inference costs, the big machines you have to acquire, the A100s, H100s, those things cost a lot of money and they're scarce. So you have to worry about cost and privacy. You can't leak your intellectual property to the world through these models accidentally. These are really hard problems that you need a platform to help you deliver. Okay, the third one, security and privacy are under extreme pressure. There's so many things happening. The regulation around these things is just starting, right? There's these new responsible AI legislation in Europe that a lot of other areas of the world are copying. Everybody's thinking about, do they want to be really controlling, really innovative? Are they going to be left behind as a country in their AI innovation? How do you balance these things? What does it mean for your company? So anybody doing, I imagine that at your company, there's a regular meeting that includes your CEO on Gen AI for your company, and someone senior in legal is in that meeting. Because this is complicated. This is complicated. Now, that's just regulation. Data privacy, the GDPR, the equivalent regulations are about provenance of data and ability to delete data. What happens when the data gets in the model? These models are trained on data. How does those things thread through? Very complicated. And then cyber attacks. The news has been filled with data leaks from people trying to harvest data from the data systems of the leading companies of the world. And real professionals are trying to do that. These systems are constantly under attack. That's just the data. What about the AI? What new threat vectors emerge, et cetera, et cetera? So these things are hard, and you don't want to hire hundreds of engineers to solve this problem. Now, when we talk about AI regulation and data privacy and cyber attacks, it has to cover the whole system. All of the data tables, the machine learning models, the AI systems, all of those things have to be covered with these concerns before you can put something into production. Okay. Now the data, we should just protect it all, right? But again, if you've been around, and a lot of you have for a while, you probably have a data warehouse over here, a data lake over here. Some, ML engineers copied the data over here to run stuff in ML. And, there's BI systems connecting to your data warehouse. But people have loaded data into those BI systems sometimes, right? So you get this fracturing of all this data. And this is actually not what your company looks like. There's not just one data warehouse. You have on-premise data warehouses, some cloud data warehouse, another one that some engineers spun up. So your environment actually looks more like this. There's copies on copies on copies on copies. And the CIOs I talk to, they need to reduce this spend and complexity. They want to get rid of a lot of these things. But you want to add AI. So how do you do that? Well, Databricks calls this platform the Data Intelligence Platform. What does that mean? Data intelligence, it's kind of like obvious words put together. But it means something very specific, and I'll break that down by first talking about this concept of the Lakehouse. This concept of the Lakehouse that we've been talking about for about 5 years now. So, what is a lakehouse? Let's start with a lake. I talked about you have all of your data. Okay, a data lake is where you use cloud storage, you use commodity machines in your cloud of choice, AWS, Azure, Google, etc. And they're very inexpensive. You put all of your data in the lake. But historically, lakes were messy. They weren't performant. They weren't structured. So you put all of your data in the lake, and then you have a layer on top of it that gives it structure, performance, and ability to connect to any engine. Any engine, okay? So a machine learning engine, a data warehouse engine, a data science engine, without having to move the data. You put all of your data in the lake, and you don't have to move it, okay? Now, most data and AI systems say, give me your data. Give me your data, and I'll do magic stuff on it. But as soon as you give someone your data, you're siloing. Those silos exist because all of those systems have data inside them and a governance layer inside them. That makes replication, cost, fracturing, compliance almost impossible. So with a lakehouse, you have this delta layer, everything can access it. Don't give your data to anyone. Don't give your data to us. Anybody that tells you need to load your data into their system to do data and AI is banking on you being locked in later and hard to use other engines other than their engines. Don't let them say you have to run compute to access your data. Storage and compute need to be separated fully. So you control your data in ADLS, in Azure, in S3, in AWS, in GCS, in Google. Because that lets you control your data and let you have your vendors make sure the best engine works for the best job. All engines can talk to the lake. So that's a beautiful story. The Lakehouse paradigm has gotten Databricks to where it is today with thousands of customers, all of you in the room, all of this energy, and all the customer success. But Delta's not the only format. There's other formats out there that had an origin around the same time, notably Iceberg. And a whole community has grown up around Iceberg too. A year ago, we announced an effort called UniForm to unify the formats of the Lakehouse. And it's been very successful, and we can talk about the progress there. And it lets you, from the data intelligence platform, any data you create has the metadata of all the formats. These formats are very similar. Most of the data is in the standard Parquet. So all of your data is in Parquet. All these formats use Parquet. But then they have proprietary, or they have specialized metadata. It's open source, it's not proprietary, around the data to give it the performance, the transaction, ACID compliance, and things like that. So since there's so much energy around the Iceberg standard as well, we wanted to really make UniForm incredible and then bring these formats themselves together. So a couple months ago, we announced that we acquired the company Tabular, started by Ryan Blue and Daniel Weeks at Netflix. And they're the architects of Iceberg. So now, in our engineering staff, we have the architects of Delta, the architects of Iceberg, and while UniForm will let you interoperate with all of these today, over the next couple years, we'll be working with the communities of Delta, because it's open source, it's run by a community, and Iceberg to bring these formats together so you never have to think about the format wars. You never have to make the decision, which format do I go with, because it doesn't matter. So then, once you use Delta UniForm for now, and over time, it won't even matter which format these are in. So now you have all of your data controlled by you in a lake, accessible by all of the engines, regardless of the format. So that's what we call the Lakehouse. I've talked about the Delta Lake UniForm layer, but I've also hinted at you need to have the same access path through a catalog, which we call Unity Catalog, for all of these different use cases, right? Because when you're siloed, you have data siloed and you have governance siloed, which makes compliance impossible. So let's talk about what Unity Catalog is. Now, there's a lot of catalogs out there. You might be using a Hive Metastore, you might be using Iceberg Catalog, etc. Unity Catalog, though, covers not just data. It covers data, models, data science, and all the lineage within. So when you're using the Databricks Data Intelligence Platform, any work you do is automatically traced through lineage and auditing and everything else, so you understand this model is giving answers based on these tables in my data warehouse. That all comes for free in the platform, basically. So with that, you get discovery, you get access control, including column masking. You want, some people never to see the social security number field. It's masked out for them. You can use attribute-based access control for all of that. There's built-in data sharing. So in the Delta open source standard, even if you're not using Databricks, any data, any cloud, can be securely shared with anybody on any platform, any cloud. It's based, we can talk about afterwards exactly how that works, but it includes sharing auditing and monitoring all within so you can safely deploy these systems. Now, this was pretty exciting. We should have a little round of applause for this. But open, yeah, gives me a chance to get a drink of water. So, a couple months ago, we open sourced Unity Catalog. It's the only universal catalog. By universal catalog, we mean it treats models the same way as it treats tables. So we open source this, and that has a lot of steam. And now all of the core components are open sourced. You have Spark, Delta, MLflow, Unity Catalog, a full system that interoperates for a Lakehouse on your own machine that works with the same interfaces as the massive scale production Lakehouses we run for you. Okay, so now you have the Delta Lake, you have Unity Catalog. Let's talk a little bit about what this means. When I make a lot of dashboards at Databricks, and we have like 6,000, how many people do we have at Databricks now? 7,000 people, something like that. So a lot of people view the dashboards I make, like every Monday. But I was writing some really arcane SQL to make those dashboards. But because thousands of people, these things get about 7,000 accesses a day, because of all of these accesses of this table, the important columns are known by Unity Catalog. The right SQL is captured through the lineage. That way, when other people ask a question in English, it can write the correct SQL for them because Unity Catalog becomes the brain of the whole operation, right? It's seeing everything that's happening through this lineage, and that's why we call it intelligent. The semantics of your business, what terms mean, is witnessed by Unity Catalog. So it can be used while people work to help them understand what these terms mean and provide valuable answers. So the data lakehouse plus AI infused within it, which we'll talk about a little more now, and Mosaic AI to build AI applications on top is what we call the data intelligence platform. When you wrap your data in this lakehouse and run everything through Unity Catalog, every minute you use it, it gets smarter about your business. And it makes all of those different applications, AI, data warehousing, et cetera, easier, faster, better, and cheaper because of the AI inside. Okay, so let's go deeper into, you're saying a lot of these things. Let's talk about what it really means in actuality. What is data intelligence? So first you have to democratize the data, and then democratize the AI. Democratize the data, that means everyone in your company can have access to the intelligence and the data. Everyone in your company. Today, you probably have single-digit % of your employees with access to Databricks. Why? Because those are the people that can write Python, SQL, and things like that. You should have all of your employees have access to Databricks, because by democratizing the data, by letting people talk to the data, everyone can get the same insights from the system safely, securely, and compliantly. By democratize AI, we mean that everyone that has access to this data should be able to build their own AI systems on your data, safely, securely, production ready. Okay, so what if you could talk to your data? Imagine you're Ron. Ron's right here, Chief Revenue Officer. Yeah, Ron. And he wants to know, how's the business doing on our fiscal year goals? Now, first of all, he just types it in shorthand, FY, fiscal year. Llama doesn't understand that. ChatGPT doesn't understand that. That's a language of your business. Those semantics have been extracted by natural usage in Unity Catalog. So when you type in this English question, by the way, this is all in the product. You can do training on this today. These are just like fancy presentation screens, right? It'll tell you the key things you measure. In our case, we measure product lines. This example is in product lines. What the actual revenue is, what the target is, if you're on plan or not. And it's a certified answer. We know it's correct on your data. You can do this today in the Databricks platform. How did this happen? Well, if we look at that table, you look at a table, you often see like crazy column names. Like what's this LS key? The reason why everybody in your company can't write SQL is no one knows what LS key means. How could you know what that means? It's crazy. But we use AI as soon as you put a table into Databricks to auto-describe what the table is and to auto-describe what each column is. And there's always a human in the loop. You can always accept these or clarify them because the data owner will know the true meaning of the different data tables. It used to be 1% of tables coming into Databricks were described. Now with this feature, 90% of tables coming into Databricks are described, and it's easy to run this on your historical data. So what does that mean? That means that when anybody searches for things in the data intelligence platform, the right things come up. Not only does it use those descriptions to find the right table for you, but it knows how important that table is. Where that table is in the lineage. Are thousands of people using that table or are one person using that table? That importance of the table is critical to surface the right table in search. So now anybody can search for their data based on the intelligence in Unity catalog. Now, I write some code. I write bad code. I'm a product guy. I never remember the syntax. I used to always go to Stack Overflow or something like that. But now, with AI inside, I can articulate the code I want to write in the language I want to write it. And it produces code that works. 6 months ago, the code sometimes worked. Now, the code almost always works. And if you look at it, it includes details about the data topography in your company. Because it knows, based on everything I talked about, which column names are important to answer the business question in Python or Scala or R or SQL. So this lets your developers move 10 times as fast. 10 times as fast. It's like Copilot on your data. So this is unleashing everybody that wants to do the deeper technical work. And every time I run a query that works, Unity Catalog gets smarter. Okay. So that's democratizing data. Everybody can have access to the data. People speaking in Portuguese can have access to the data. People writing code can have access to the data without having to know it a priori. How do you democratize AI? So a year ago, 2 years ago, something like that, we acquired Mosaic ML, a leading company in creating these foundation models. We incorporated all of that into the data intelligence platform. And that's the AI system. Mate, the same guy at Berkeley that wrote Spark one night and created MLflow, he's an active professor. He co-wrote this paper on compound AI systems. As you're thinking about these models, Llama, GPT, DBRX, you might think the model will solve your problem. For a while, people are going to bigger and bigger models. Bigger and bigger models won't work for you. They just won't work because of cost and because of quality, frankly. And it's been shown that compound AI systems are the solution for this. So one of our customers, FactSet, it's a financial intelligence company. You write these queries in a language called FQL, FactSet Query Language. And you have to be trained on this stuff. It's very complicated. But they wanted to help people write these queries because it's just hard to write these queries. They wanted to expand their audience. So they used a commercial LLM and they trained it on some of their data, but they couldn't get better than 60% quality. And who's going to ask for help generating a query, wait 15 seconds, and then have it be wrong? That's not a user experience that anyone will gravitate towards. So nobody was really using this feature because it wasn't good enough. With the Mosaic team, they broke that down into a compound AI system. So first of all, they use a fine-tuned OSS model on a lot of samples of FQL to do the query processing part. And then they use vector embeddings on data in Unity Catalog. It's built in a vector database to do the data set retrieval. And then they generate arguments and do the final formula with commercial LLMs. So you'd think, if I chain these things together, it's going to take longer, and it's going to be more expensive, but no. Because a lot of these are much smaller models, much faster latency, much cheaper to run. So they got to 85% accuracy in less than half the time. And actually, this is outdated. They've gotten, they've improved this further since. So you will be using compound AI systems. You'll be stitching together models. And our platform lets you use DBRX, any of the open source models, connect natively to any of the AI systems like, Vertex or the things in the other clouds, or build your own models and train it on your data. Any of this plurality of models you can use and train on your own data. So this system lets you get continuous monitoring. You see the full lineage from the upstream tables through the inference outputs. All the inference outputs are stored in the Lakehouse, in a Delta table, for you to do continuous evaluation and quality checks on. A/B testing is built in, et cetera, et cetera. So now you can build all of these things on this platform. And again, if you go to the training, you can play with this stuff right away. So that's just AI. All of these different apps on top of the data intelligence platform are massive businesses. When we started talking about the Lakehouse, we would say the best data warehouse is a Lakehouse. And people thought we were crazy. 5 years ago, we kind of were, but in the last 5 years, it's become more than true. It's substantially better performance and cost characteristics running your data warehouse from where the data is in the data lake. This is just a chart over the last 18 months. The same queries in the warehouse have gotten, 73% faster. And that's because of the AI we're baking into the system. AI baking into the system lets us use deep learning patterns to index the data instead of like crude partitioning and things like that. And it makes things run enormously faster. So the performance is great. In fact, if you compare it against data warehouses, here, I'll use this guy. Okay, so the red lines, the bright red lines are Databricks. The dark red lines, not very distinguished, are leading cloud data warehouse. On the left, you see small data, and on the right, you see large data. So basically, from a performance and cost perspective, on small data, it's even Steven. You can keep the data in the lake and get the same performance as the cloud data warehouse. Large data, no comparison. The Lakehouse kicks butt on the cloud data warehouses, right? And your data isn't shrinking. So you should think about the future where your data is bigger. And then when you come to concurrency, it's fine to do 2, 4, 8 users. Those are the leftmost. Let me get back there. These are the small users. When you get to hundreds, thousands of users, which is all of your employees accessing this data, we scale flat, basically, because of the characteristics of our engine, and the cloud data warehouses explode in cost and latency. So the best data warehouse is a Lakehouse, full stop. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. There's no reason to shuttle your data off to another warehouse. Then what about all the BI clients that connect? BI is a huge space. It's an awesome space. Of course, we have Click and Domo here. You might use other ones like Power BI, Tableau, etc. All of that can be pointed directly at the lake, but also you can build dashboards in the system natively for the people that are in the system. And we put AI into those dashboards. We announced it, called it AI BI, kind of a weird name. But when you have a dashboard in Databricks, you can talk to it. The dashboard never answers your question fully, right? So you go back to the analyst, and you're like, could you slice that by BU or something? You can just ask that question in the dashboard, get the answer. And then, of course, you have to get data into the lake, right? There's great partners like Fivetran who are here. But there's a lot of tooling within Databricks, and we announced something called Lakeflow, where you can natively connect to all of these systems and start pumping your data into the lake to get all of your intelligence there. So you can do everything in your data and AI landscape within this data intelligence platform, but we're not trying to boil the ocean. We will connect it to all of your systems you already have through federation, through other mechanisms. The Unity catalog supports all the standard interfaces like Hive Metastore, Iceberg REST API to just connect to your systems where they are. This is pretty cool. So now you can do all of these things much faster because of the AI in them. But there's one piece I just want to end on. Those of you that have used Databricks for a long time might think of it as complicated because you have to set up clusters, pick your machines, monitor them, and all of these other things. We're moving all of the compute to serverless, and now it's available for all of these different use cases in serverless. What does that mean? That means you run your code, you write your SQL in your query thing, and you hit run, you never pick a warehouse. You craft your job, you never pick a cluster. We just run it for you very efficiently. A machine can pick a machine better than you can, I guarantee it. You might pick it right today after a lot of 10 hours of analysis, but then as your data changes and your business evolves, 6 months from now, you'll be very wasteful. Machines can pick machines better than you. With serverless, we pay for the idle time. The clusters and warehouses you spin up in classic Databricks have more idle than you want to know if you have a cluster that you want always up for fast BI responsiveness. You're paying for the idle there. In serverless, we pay for the idle. Machine's always ready. It's always the right machine. You can just do your work and go. So these are all available now, and if you have any questions about that, please let us know. And serverless has a lot of attendant benefits. You don't pay for idle. AI kind of gets the right machine ready at the right time. But it has cost controls, enterprise security, and it allows a lot simpler disaster recovery. Because if compute's not available in one place, we can spin it up in another place instead of having your business stopped. So, data intelligence platform, 100% serverless. Woo! Sorry, that was a little loud. And remember, this isn't just talk. You should get hands on keyboards later in the training and the sessions, and find us if you have any questions. Thank you so much for your indulgence on the time. That is the Data Intelligence Platform.